Hello, I'm Emma Hammett, and today I'm going to talk about diabetes, and in particular, what friends and family should know if you have someone who you care about who is diabetic. So in a nutshell, I'm going to go through sort of what is diabetes, difference between high and low blood sugar, first aid tips for anyone looking after someone who is diabetic, and also things to think about if you're going away together, because it can make things a little bit more complicated. So diabetes is a condition where someone either doesn't produce enough insulin or the insulin isn't working properly. And so they're unable to adequately regulate their blood sugar or their blood glucose levels. We produce the hormone insulin in our pancreas, and this helps the body to burn off the sugars that we've eaten. And if the body has a problem with insulin production, we can't regulate our insulin levels properly, and the person will develop diabetes. And this initially means that the blood sugar levels will be going up until we artificially give them something to control their blood sugars and replace the insulin or assist the insulin and help bring the blood sugars down. And it's important to note that it isn't just sugars that we eat, because a lot of our foods are actually broken down into glucose and produce sugars in that way. So it's vital that anyone with diabetes takes additional steps to look after themselves and to keep their blood sugar levels as normal a level as possible. Because when blood sugar levels fluctuate and become unstable, it can make them feel very ill. They can feel tired and unwell. They start losing weight. They will urinate more frequently. They get very thirsty. And it can also cause major damage to the organs of the body, in particular the kidneys and the peripheral nerves, so they can lose sensation. It can damage their eyes. Uncontrolled diabetes is a very serious condition, and it has long-term ramifications. So family and friends can really help to help the person who's got diabetes to live a normal life and to make the necessary adjustments that they do need to make to their diet and their lifestyle in order to help control the diabetes. So knowing more can help them. It's particularly difficult for teenagers as well. There's all sorts of pressures as a teenager, and wanting to have a normal social life and do all the things that teenagers do when you're diabetic is that much more difficult. And diabetic nurses are really tuned into this, or they should be, and there's specific help groups that can enable somebody with diabetes who's a teenager to live a relatively normal and full life. But for anyone who is diagnosed with diabetes, it's a big thing to come to terms with. And as I say, family and friends can really help them to make those lifestyle changes that can make it that little bit easier. Sometimes people are diagnosed with a pre-diabetic, and very often weight loss and lifestyle changes can reverse that. So treat that as a warning sign, and very often you can kick that into touch. Now, important things in diabetic emergencies that it's helpful for family and friends to know. Hypoglycemia, low blood sugar. Your blood sugar or a diabetic's blood sugar can plummet if they haven't balanced what's going in and the insulin that they're giving to control it. So if they unexpectedly run for a bus or they miss a meal, their blood sugars might well go down. And this can make them appear grumpy, possibly a bit drunk, confused, pale, cold, shaky, sweaty. You think about anyone who misses a meal and gets that slightly shaky, bit grumpy sort of feeling when you're really, really hungry. And if you're diabetic, that is like that, but a lot worse. So be tuned into that and be ready to offer them some sort of sugary drink, or they should have glucose tablets with them that they will be carrying, or something for that sort of emergency. jelly babies, gummy bears, something that will give them a quick shot of glucose. You then need to follow it up with a nice long-lasting carbohydrate, so something like a jam sandwich or biscuits that will keep them going that bit longer. And if this is happening more regularly, they should contact their diabetic nurse and get some additional advice. If they don't feel better within about 10 minutes of having that, or they begin to feel worse, then phone the emergency services, or at the very least contact the diabetic nurse and get some advice. And never, ever attempt to give anyone insulin. Because if it's low blood sugar and you're giving them insulin, that will drop their levels further and can be very, very dangerous and could be fatal. So, be advised by the diabetic person who knows their condition the best. Never think that you are helping by delving in and doing your best guess. So, and likewise, if somebody is unconscious, please don't try and force food into them, because it's dangerous and it's very serious. So if you had misdiagnosed and it was actually high blood sugar instead of low blood sugar, and you had given them a sugary drink, don't worry, you're not going to have done anything dramatically wrong for them. It will be a drop in the ocean. So the important thing is, give them something sugary, or talk to them. Ask them how they're feeling, give them something sugary. If they feel better, that's great. If they don't feel better, get help. Do follow up, or get them to follow up with their diabetic nurse. Now, high blood sugar emergencies tend to be less common in a first aid situation. They tend to come on slower and more gradually. If you've got someone who's diabetic, as I said before, and it isn't a low blood sugar problem, then get them to talk to their diabetic nurse as quickly as possible and get them to get checked out. There is also something called a hyperosmolar hyperglycemic state, HHS, and that's a serious condition that can occur with people with type 2 diabetes. I've gone into more detail with this on my blog, and it develops in particular if somebody has stopped taking their medication, or they're very unwell and they're not eating properly either, and the blood sugars can continue to go up, and it's very difficult to stop them. So that is a diabetic emergency, and they should contact their medic or their diabetic nurse as quickly as possible. Now, further information about diabetes that you might find helpful. So if they have an injury, it's far more likely that their wounds might get infected. So it's much more important that any wounds are cleaned properly and dressed quickly and checked on in case they're getting infected. Encourage the person that you care about to let you know how they feel. So how they feel when their blood sugar drops and how you can help them. So open up and talk about it. That can be very helpful. And ask them to help you to understand how they check their blood sugar and how you can help them do that if they were in a state when they couldn't do it themselves. And encourage them to teach you how to do the readings so that you understand what you have to do if they're low or high. If you're going away together, there's a few extra things. There should be a diabetic emergency kit that the diabetic person is carrying, and airlines will want paperwork to accompany that, and GPs might need a little bit longer to sort that out. They should carry their medication in their hand luggage just in case something goes astray. They should make sure they've got at least 3 days extra of their medication, and they should travel with their prescriptions in case something goes awry and they need to get replacement medication. Always check expiry dates and make sure everything is very clearly marked and in its original containers. There is so much more information on this on my blog, and I hope it's been useful. That's Emma Hammett from First Aid for Life and onlinefirstaid.com.